OK, well, we break away from the pay-per-view and we say good morning to Maria Caulfield. She's Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Mental Health and Women's Health Strategy. Good morning. Welcome to the programme. I want to talk about our top story to begin with. A serious concern around the democratic process in this country. The Telegraph reporting that upwards of 90 constituencies where people have applied for their postal ballots, these haven't arrived. Now, lots of people make plans, and I think actually Conservative voters in the large part rely upon this as well. People go on holiday, people go to work, they simply aren't at home and can't go to their local voting booth. So what's being done about this, and, you know, how seriously are you taking it?
So Kevin Hollinrake, who's the minister who's responsible for overseeing the Royal Mail, is in urgent talks with the Royal Mail. He's, I think, been to visit them as well to make sure that they're doing a big sweep of each and every depot, so that if there are postal votes there, they're getting out to people and putting on extra staff to get those onto people's doorsteps. So my understanding is local councils have sent out those postal ballots, so it is a Royal Mail issue rather than a local council issue. And what I would say to your viewers, if their postal votes are arriving late, they can still take them to the polling stations on the day if they're worried that they won't get back in time. But there is concern in a few constituencies, not all, and not a huge number that we're picking up. But where there are, Kevin Hollinrake is personally meeting with Royal Mail to try and get this resolved urgently.
And I believe some of those constituencies include cabinet members who are competing to try and hold on to their seats. A lot of people would say that this is symbolic, really, of broken Britain.
Well, as you will know, Royal Mail is not a government-run company. There have been problems with Royal Mail. I personally, and as have many MPs in Sussex, taken up issues about delays in post for Royal Mail for a little while. That did seem to improve. They brought in extra, they had a bit of a recruitment freeze. They brought in extra staff. They had taken away staff vans for posties. They are now replacing those. And so I've personally seen a big improvement in my local area of the postal service. But clearly there are problems in some parts of the country, which the minister is in urgent talks with Royal Mail about. They have an obligation under their remit to deliver postal votes in time that they are able to be filled in and returned ahead of polling day.
Can I talk about this phrase, a supermajority, which I don't know who came up with it, whether it was Rishi Sunak himself. It has been imported from America and obviously isn't technically a possibility in this country. How serious a threat is that? I mean, nobody was talking about supermajorities when Boris Johnson won a thumping majority. So is it just because you don't want Labour to be in control?
Well, there's still, you know, the polling is suggesting, even out today, I think there's a story that if 130,000 voters switched their votes, that actually the 200 or so majority that is being proposed is not actually that realistic any longer. And we've seen in the last 24 hours the polls starting to narrow as people are really thinking about the implications should they have a Labour government after Thursday. But if they did get what's called a supermajority, it does mean there is absolutely no scrutiny of them. We have what's called select committees in the House of Commons, which are usually overseen by opposition MPs. Now, if you haven't got many of those, you're not going to get scrutiny of the government. And so there is a danger with a supermajority that means that they govern without any opposition at all or any credible scrutiny of their policies. And as we haven't seen much of a plan from Keir Starmer about what he will do, there's a serious risk that taxes will go up. I know he said about tax and VAT, income tax and VAT won't go up, but he's been very silent on fuel duty, on the tax thresholds, particularly for pensioners whose state's pension will go above that, and council tax rebanding. So there's real concerns that if they bring in some of the policies they're suggesting, that there's absolutely no scrutiny of those policies. But as I said, you know, the polling is narrowing, and there's also a suggestion that should 130,000 people switch their vote between now and Thursday, that supermajority is not necessarily something that would happen.
I understand, though, why people say that this is just fear-mongering and that, of course, there are checks and balances very much built into the system. You're not just talking about cross-party select committees. Of course, you have the House of Lords, the second chamber. You have the courts as well to make sure that there are these checks and balances. It's not like an American system. And this is simply playing into the whole rhetoric of fear, isn't it?
Well, we know that the House of Lords has certainly done its bit in trying to stymie this government's attempts, particularly on issues on immigration.
Well, you've had 14 years in power.
Well, we haven't. The 14 years in power isn't strictly true. The first 5 years were with the Liberal Democratic coalition, and so we were restricted in some of the things we wanted to do. The next 4 years, we had actually no majority at all. And in Theresa May's day, we couldn't even get a vote through for a general election. It's only really since Boris came into government in 2019 that we had a working majority of a Conservative nature. And of course, 8 weeks after that election, we had COVID and were locked down for 2 years, and that was our complete focus. And so really, you say 14 years, they've not been the easiest 14 years, and they've not all been with a Conservative majority.
But Project FEAR does seem to be the attack line coming out of CCHQ. You've got the Prime Minister talking about bots behind reform and talking about Russian interference. And I just wonder what evidence you've got at the moment of this threat. I mean, it's pretty weak, isn't it? Instead of going after votes, you're attacking the electoral system in terms of Russian interference.
No, we know across the whole world that there are threats of AI. Global experts have been very clear, whether it's China or Russia. We know that there's been interference, not just in this country, but in many countries in elections. And it's right and proper to flag that. We've seen not before this election, kind of fake videos circulating of politicians of all colours, and we've called those out at each and every stage. So we do need to be mindful of interference in elections more generally. But absolutely, we're sending a positive message. I'm on the doorsteps each and every day for hours at a time, and it's not fear-mongering. People are genuinely worried about having a Labour government that, particularly on taxation, is not being clear how they will raise the money to pay for the things they say they want to do in their manifesto. And that can only be removing the freeze on fuel duty, council tax rebanding, not increasing tax thresholds, particularly for pensioners. I thought you just said
you had a positive message that you were going out with, and it sounds like you're just criticising the Labour manifesto.
I'm just telling you what people are saying to me, that they are genuinely fearful of that, and where they see in our manifesto...
Where's this positive message? Sorry, I missed it.
So in our manifesto, for example, we are looking at education, for example, increasing what has been really successful in terms of apprenticeships. We've now got more apprentices than ever before. We've got over 70 professions where you don't need to go to university to get your degree. You don't need to build up a student loan. You can do a degree apprenticeship and earn while you learn and have a job. That's been a real success. Look at education more widely. In my own constituency, every school now in my constituency is good or outstanding, and we've got the best reading age in the Western world. You look at our economy, inflation down to 2%, interest rates set to fall this summer. We've been able, as a result, to do the national insurance tax cuts, which will mean £900 in people's pockets. They are positive messages, but it would be wrong, given there is absolutely no scrutiny of Labour's manifesto at the moment, not to point out some of the fears that people have if Labour were to get in government. And, we are selling a positive message. We are turning a corner as a country. NHS waiting lists are down 6 months in a row. 200,000 people have come off those waiting lists since January. We've opened up over 100 rapid diagnostic centres, 100 surgical hubs, more nurses than ever before, over 70,000 extra nurses. There's real positive news. Often the media don't want to hear that, but that is, perhaps we've not been as good at rolling the pitch as we should have been, but there is a real positive message to be sold as well.
We'll end on a high then. Maria Caulfield, thanks very much indeed for your time this morning. Let's get the thoughts of the